What is going on? Merry Christmas, everybody. Bobby Fire, Sheets Tabor. We're going to be talking through this NFL two-game slate. Feels like we had all four of these teams just playing last week.
It's very clever they did that.
Yeah. So we've got all the same players that we talked about on Saturday, just in a different matchup here. So I have a pretty strong take that I would just be way overweight the Baltimore game, both sides, Baltimore and Houston, and I'll probably be underweight most of Kansas City and Kansas City and Pittsburgh. See, I keep getting them mixed up because they just played the other team, so I'm a little lost on that one. But that's where I'm looking at. What do you have overall takes wise for this?
Under normal circumstances, I would say, that's probably the very popular stance. That's pretty much what I'm hearing is to do that. But again, it's Christmas, and I think it's going to be extra soft today. So I think that you'll get probably more Mahomes, than maybe you would otherwise. It's like one of those things that people I would say shark plays, but a lot of the people that have been following NFL and DFS for the whole season are kind of down on Mahomes a little bit. You know what I mean? But I think people that are just showing up to play today, they'll just say, "Oh wow, let's go, let's play Mahomes." So I'm getting that as well. I'm getting my quarterback exposure, for example. You have 73% from that game. I'm getting 59% Lamar, and then 14% Stroud. And this is actually a new build for me, because earlier today, or actually earlier in the week, or whatever, yesterday we ran these, it was the opposite. I was getting much more Stroud than Lamar, but I'm just now getting just that much more Lamar. I've been really heavy on him. And from the other game, I'm getting 23% Mahomes, and from what I'm hearing is kind of a square take. I'm very light on Russell Wilson. I've heard from a lot of people know what they're doing, saying that that's a mistake and that you should be playing Russell Wilson. Pickens is back and all this stuff. And I get it. I guess you just can't play everybody, I suppose. I don't know. Kansas City's defense is no freaking joke. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm very light on Russell Wilson today.
Yeah, fairly weakish at the corners, but overall a good defense and a good pass rush. That could
that's depleted a little bit today because Chris Jones is out.
That's true. But the issue is that I have with it is these totals, I don't know why they're where they are, to be honest with you. I think if this was a regular Sunday to Sunday, and this is the third time these teams are playing in 11 days, which is probably doesn't speak great to the offense. But the fact that it's only a half-point difference between the Texans game and the Steelers game, I would have imagined this Baltimore Texans game, if it was just a regular Sunday to Sunday, it would be like a 53 or 52.
Yeah, right.
And I'm going to sort of treat it that way. Now I'm just double checking a couple things because I want to see the Steelers have it's a weird situation because if the Steelers win, they're really in the driver's seat. But if they lose, then Baltimore's in the driver's seat to win that division, and it's a big deal. So they have a lot to play for. Now, if the Steelers win the first game, the Steelers still have to play the Bengals next week anyway, who are going to be possibly fighting for something. So no matter what, Baltimore is still going to put their best foot forward, as will Houston, of course, today. So that's just the side I like better. Look, you go in the dome rather than outdoors in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of things I like better about it. And for what it's worth, if you're telling me these games are really that close, if there's a way to bet just on which game is higher scoring, I would bet on the Ravens and Texans, considering it's only a half-point difference. I just don't understand why. And it's 39 degrees in Pittsburgh, and I just am very much on the side of I want to play the Baltimore, be overweight the Baltimore Houston side.
Now, what's interesting, so from in the running back position, you have two spots with essentially bell cow full workload, and two spots with basically a pretty even split, right? Mm-hmm. So you have Mixon, who's going to get all the work for Houston, whatever that means, okay? Right. And Derrick Henry, who's going to get all the work, whatever that means, with Baltimore. And then and then KC is, you could argue this, but the fact is it's a split. I don't know what degree it's a split, but it's some form of split. Pacheco, since he come back, people are waiting for him to kind of take over. It just hasn't happened. And Harris and Warren pretty well split. As a matter of Warren you could argue that Warren's the preferred prefer a guy at this point. Although,
well, I just think it's game flow. It's exactly last week is exactly what we thought would happen. It happened.
Yeah,
exactly what I said would happen. Like Jalen Warren will get the work when they're playing when they're down. He's not going to be able to pound the ball against Baltimore, who they were playing then. I feel like it might be a similar situation this week with the Chiefs. So I prefer Warren over Harris for what it's worth.
So with these two like kind of bell cows. So Mixon has this I don't want to say this tag on him. People are saying he's kind of like, I don't say washed, but he's like towards the end of the season, he's getting a little bit whatever.
Worn down.
Fact is, he's still the lead guy in a big game, and you know he's just better than all the other guys except for Henry. You know what I mean? As far as just like a projection goes and whatever it is, unless somehow they get game scripted out, you know. But even so, he's gonna he can catch balls out of the backfield, you know. And then Derrick Henry, I mean, the only thing that ever really there are two things that stop him from, you know, being uber smashes. One is like the Lamar touchdowns, right, near the goal line. And two, when Justice Hill was playing. You know? And now we have no Justice Hill. Is Keaton Mitchell going to be the guy who takes over Justin Hill's role? Or is it just going to be the Derrick Henry show? You know, and I think in either case, you know, you have to play two running backs if you want to be very safe, whatever. I think Mixon and Henry are clearly the two best, but do you disagree with that? And I guess the fun part is going to be trying to make heads or tails of the other two running back situations.
Yeah, I think that you probably get a little lower ownership on the two on the Hunt and on the Warren. So I think that those would be the ones I would choose just based on that fact alone. Just because they're going to be lower owned than the starting, you know, quote unquote starting running backs there. I worry a little bit too that Michigan, and also again, I just want to remind everybody, it's no fun going up. Baltimore's front, they're really good against the run, and you can throw the ball against them. Now, I'm hoping if Mixon does get there, it's going to be. I'm thinking if Mixon does get there, it might be through the passing game a little bit more than we're used to, especially with no Tank Dell, and that's why I like him a little bit better than I did the Pittsburgh running backs against Baltimore last week. But overall, I definitely think it's hard to not have Mixon and Henry at like 60% each at least.
Yeah.
That'd probably be the minimum number you'd have of each of them.
I'm a little under on Henry. I have 60% Mixon and 35 Henry. Splitting hairs, I guess. Who do you prefer between like Hunt versus Pacheco and Harris versus Warren?
That's what I was saying. I would play the lower owned of the two. I would play the Hunt.
Do we know what that is? I mean,
well, I'm assuming that the starting running back is. I mean, they're projected. The ones who are projected to be more owned. Which just looking at let's see. Actually, that Warren's projected to be higher owned than Harris today.
That's what I'm saying. It's like close.
Yeah, I think Hunt is the one I would feel better with than Pacheco, and I do like Warren better than I like Harris here. But because the ownership might be that different, I might switch it over to Harris. I think it's pretty close between them.
Yeah, I think that on the 2-game slate to try to get different, I would just go reverse of what happened last week. So I would probably go with like Harris Pacheco, you know, as opposed to the Hunt Warren. I mean, to your point, I mean, not a lot of, but you know, a decent amount of the Warren stuff was due to game flow.
Yep.
So I currently have more Harris than Warren.
Okay.
I currently have. I mean, I actually have Hunt Pacheco very, very close.
Same here. I've got him close, but I got Hunt a little bit more. I actually, you know what? I flirted because I watched that game and I did not think that they had any interest in making Pacheco anything. Every time there was a serious situation that came up, it was Hunt.
Yeah.
That was just from watching it, what it seemed like to me. But yeah, I mean, I've got the big one is going to be hard to get away from is Nico Collins today, just with no Tank Dell. But what are you doing with the quote unquote others from Houston? Are you taking some of these stabs on the Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods, John Mechie, anything like that?
I am taking the mild stances, but not really that much. Like I'm getting like 20% Robert Woods. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But aside from that, I'm not really getting the others. I'm not really getting the Mechies or the Xavier Hutchinsons. Mm-hmm. Tell you what I am getting. So I don't want to say under. I guess I'm considered under. So I'm a little under on Collins. Now, there's just literally no way to dispute what a great play it is. You know what I mean? Like with no Tank Dell, Even with Tank Dell, he might be the highest projected, right, wide receiver on the slate. But I'm getting only 42% of him. My highest owned wide receiver is actually Zach Flowers.
Zay Flowers,
Zay Flowers, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's a little harder of a click for him to pay 80% of him as opposed to 80% of Nico Collins, right? Nico Collins is very easy to do. Like they're missing receiver. CJ Stroud is going to be throwing the ball to him. And I think that the 84% Flowers is a really aggressive stance that I don't actually mind taking. I mean, it's pretty risky because it doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Like he obviously Henry can run stuff in, Lamar can run stuff in, Andrews can get stuff in. There's plenty of things that can happen. So I think taking a big stand like that is not bad. And the other two guys that I'm getting seem pretty solid to me. Well, I'm getting DeAndre Hopkins, like 50% of that, and I am getting 40% of the George Pickens. I do expect him to be there. He's obviously Russell Wilson's number one target. I do also believe that they're going to be coming from behind at some point, at least. So I like those guys, and then it's a drop for me to like Xavier Worthy. Like he's the next guy for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just way underweight everything Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Hollywood Brown is the one I feel best about from Kansas City. It was very, very clear that they were trying to get him the ball. If Mahomes makes a good throw, he blows up the slate at 5% ownership. He had a wide open touchdown and he just missed it. So I really I feel best about Hollywood Brown, and I feel best about from the first game Hollywood Brown from the Chiefs, obviously Pickens from Pittsburgh, and then the other one I like Mahomes better than I like Wilson. And I'm looking at my exposure right now, but pretty much I'm looking at all of my highest owned players. You got to go all the way down to my 11th highest owned player to get to anybody from the first game, which would be actually no, the 10th highest would be the Steelers defense, and the 11th highest would be Travis Kelce. But other than that, it is going to be all Baltimore and Houston for me. So I have no idea how I'm doing after the first games. I'm going to need to wait till the second ones, personally, before I figure anything out.
Tight ends,
all of them are good.
Yeah, but it should come as no surprise, given how much what I've said about my Lamar ownership, that the majority of my ownership is coming from the two Baltimore tight ends.
Yep.
And I have a good amount of both of them, and some of them in the same lineup. And I haven't looked yet, but I probably have a bunch of lineups with Flowers, Andrews, and Likely. All possible. I haven't looked, I'm afraid.
With all three. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm afraid because I don't know if I can even fit in Henry with all those guys. You know what I mean? Like may have that too. I'm not sure. But then the guy I have surrounding them is Kelce, and then a drop to Freiermuth, which is, I think that makes sense. Freiermuth is certainly the number one tight end option for Pittsburgh, but with Pickens back, he doesn't have the same allure that he did last week. Remember when we said we were going to put him? So I'm getting some of him, and I'm getting some of the Dalton Schultz. Why not? And then I have very light amount, but I have a sliver or two of Noah Gray. Yeah,
and I same here. Noah Gray is actually the one. I think he's the only player from the first game that I'm actually over the field on. But because I think these are all very valuable, and I wanted to find some ways to get different. I am taking more stabs at some weird stuff today. My highest owned player is Collins, which is no surprise. Then Henry, then Flowers, then Mixon, then Schultz, then Lamar, then Andrews. Then we get to Steelers and Kelce. Then I go Stroud, Bateman. I think Bateman has a good bounce back week, just in terms of knowing what happens with Baltimore. Had the one route that he ran that Lamar just made a terrible throw on, like probably the only really bad throw Lamar's made all season. Like really bad where it was to the other team. Overweight Likely. And then I'm going to be underweight the Pickens and everybody in the first game, but Pickens is still the highest. Kelsey's the highest I have owned, along with the Pittsburgh defense, and then Pickens. Are you getting weight? I mean, you obviously can't play 20% of every defense. Is there anybody you're well overweight on defensively?
No. Actually, it's so funny. Relative to everything that I said, it's going to be a little, I guess, sort of surprising. But no, my highest owned defense is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's what mine is too right now.
Yeah. Actually, that's not very surprising now that I think. I keep forgetting that they're playing. They're not. Pittsburgh's not playing Baltimore.
No, I know it's really hard. It's been going through every time I've started to manually try and do things this week and just like look at it and try and build.
I say, boy, oh boy, I have so much Pittsburgh, but I have so much Lamar. Why am I doing this? I'm like, oh, that's right. So I have 40% Pittsburgh, and then 28%. I mean, like 28% Texans and Chiefs are pretty much, and then my lowest exposure is the Ravens. I'm sure they're fine. Whatever, you just can't play everybody, I guess.
Yeah, you can't play everybody, and that's the only issue I have is that I actually like the Ravens defense today, but I just am not being able to get there. I guess that's the few hundred is making a difference for me.
And playing Pittsburgh defense, that's no bargain. I mean, I don't know what their ceiling is really, but
no, they've got a ceiling. They're a great defense. I mean, Mahomes is now with his toys, he looked a lot better last week as sort of you might but. I mean, Pittsburgh can rack up the defensive points for sure.
Sure. Yep. Let me give you a couple of quick takes on the at least exposures on the showdowns. Because I did put in lineups for both of them. Let's see if there's any real difference here. Now it's hard for me to tell as far as captain goes who I use without going. I'm going to go to Saberson and tell you what I did as far as at least captain ownership. Hold on a second. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't put too much. Actually, I did, huh? No, my highest owned captain is actually Pickens from that game. Just to try to get different. And then I do have like 13% Mahomes, but then I went like 12% Worthy, 10% Freiermuth. So I do have a decent amount of the receivers. Some hoodoos I have like 6% Hollywood Brown captain just for funsies. But Pickens would be my I would say off the board, whatever. But to having the highest owned captain, I think is probably off the board. And as far as the Baltimore-Houston game, I as different as I like to get, I find it hard to believe while I pull this up that I'm gonna have any lineups without Lamar in them. It's just he just always projects just too high. I mean, you know what I mean? Let me see how much I have him in the captain though, just for fun. I even have him a decent amount in the captain. I don't have him number one in the captain. I have him like a little bit below Collins. I have Nico Collins, slightly best captain. Under that is Lamar. So I'm not particularly off the board with anything kind of captain-wise. And to be honest, not particularly off the board with anything in the showdown in general. So I'm not going to be around for like the last, updates and stuff. So I didn't want to just go cuckoo with these guys that might not even be active.
Right.
That might not play at all. So I went a little bit, whatever. I didn't play like too much Keaton Mitchell or how much Patrick Ricard am I going to have?
Right.
Or how much of the Rasheen Ali, who's actually not a bad play in showdown for that Baltimore side. Maybe he does get the Rasheen Ali. Maybe he gets the whatchamacallit work, the Justice Hill work. I don't even know. But aside from, if I were, I'm kind of protecting myself. If I were around and had time to really like grind, I'd probably put in 100 lineups that have no chance. So right now I have like lineups that actually have a chance to be competitive. We'll see. We'll see how that approach works.
Yeah, I for what it's worth, I think it's Keaton Mitchell, and I don't think it's close if he's available. Keaton Mitchell is a guy they really liked, and it was a big part of what they were planning to do until they got Derrick Henry. He just has been hurt this season, and I think Keaton Mitchell, and he's got the same burst that Justice Hill has, but more. He's much more athletic than Justice Hill too. He's just like a better version. So I like the Keaton Mitchell idea. I'm going to force some of that in right now as we speak.
It'd be really scary though, is if what's Baltimore? Does Baltimore need this game? I mean, they need the game, right?
Yeah.
What'd be really scary is if it became truly the Derrick Henry show, like with him like getting balls out of the backfield on third down and like all of it. Then the slate is over. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Nice start for Wemby. It looks like. I just looked at the numbers. It looks, Dude,
he's chucking too. He's already missed 3 threes that I've seen.
Yeah, he's 0 for 4 from 3 right now, and he's been like shooting really well too.
So he's under orders by the NBA to try to do something.
Take over Christmas.
Yeah.
I hope so. Who has more upside, Worthy or Brown from the Chiefs? It's the same. There's no correct answer there. You could say because Brown's just coming back, he might not be on the field as much, but they certainly look like they wanted to get him.
I don't know. You know what? He was only on the field like 25% of the snaps, whatever.
And every play basically went to him.
And he had 8 targets.
I know. Yeah.
He looked good out there.
Yeah, he did. And people forget this guy's got like some. I mean, between he and Worthy, they're like the same player, except they both have this electric, absolutely crazy speed. And then you've got Hopkins as the possession guy. So I would say that he might not be on the field as much, but I like the Brown play personally. And he's a little cheaper.
The other thing, again, and I'll leave you with one other, is that you already mentioned the Rashad Bateman. Remember, I mean, there was a little bit of, I would say, holy war, but I was pretty convinced that he wasn't going to play last week because he was, in walking boots and stuff like that. And he did play, but I'll double down on that and say that he wasn't completely healthy for that game. So if he's better, you know what I mean? It's kind of like hidden upside in health, I guess. I wouldn't mind getting overweight on that.
Yeah, I like it. I'm overweight that play for sure. Like I said, I made a very clear line in the sand when I played this slate. I'm just going to play the Baltimore Houstons. By the way, if this was a Sunday slate and like we're normal Sunday to Sunday, I would be all over this Baltimore Houston game anyway. So
right, yeah,
feel good to be on like doing it. Whereas Pittsburgh and KC, I kind of would just cross off on a main slate. That's why it just feels weird that the totals are so similar. All right.
So are you going to be? I forget dates. Are you going to be around Sunday or no?
So I'm going to try, but I'm likely going to be at sea.
No, that's fine. No, I'm on it. I'll just.
No, I appreciate it. If I can do it, I will. I'll tell you what. If I won something today, it'd be a nice way to just enter a bunch of things and then fill it in from out there if I could. But and I also don't know what the boat's plans are when we're going to be getting in. But the 29th, it's probably going to be around the 30th or 31st that we get into Cabo. All right. What else is in here? Yeah, Wemby 0 for 4. Yikes.
He's like 0 for 4. He's gonna have like 30 fantasy points in the half anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, more than that, I think. We'll see. All right, Cheese. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think what just happened? No, I think we're good.
All right, man. I hope you enjoyed the day. Good luck, everybody. And reminder, I'll be out for a little bit, but I'll update you guys every day on what's going on and whenever.